Hey everybody, what's up? I've fielded enough questions and made a promise to somebody to do this video, so that's why it's here for. It's a very basic video, and I'm sorry this light is very washing. It's kind of like a orange orange color we got going on there. So somebody asked me to do a video on how I clean the VP9. It's a new guy to shooting and a new guy to the VP9. So here we are. Now I haven't shot the VP9 in some time, so it's clean already, but I'll go through it just in case. First thing you want to do is make sure the gun is clear, which I don't talk about much, but there you go. Lock slide of the rear, take down handle down, release, and remove. One thing when cleaning the gun is you want to make sure you get down in all these nooks and crannies. Now, there's two types of cleaning that I do. There's, hey, I'm taking this thing out again tomorrow, or I'm taking it out this week. I'm just going to clean it really quickly and then put it up. And then there's a very detailed clean. Actually, there's really three. And then there's a take it completely apart, like I did that tan USP 45, and clean absolutely everything, re-oil it, reassemble it. 9mm get very dirty because a lot of people like to shoot really crappy powders through them. This will probably even, yeah, that'll turn up some stuff. But what you want to do is you want to get in here with, I normally have the Q-tips on a stick and they have less stuff on them than the ones you use for your ears. But it's good to get in here and get all of the little stuff that you can't see. Not a requirement, but it keeps it from accumulating. So if you see it and you can get it out of there. You know what I'm saying? So the main parts that get really dirty on this gun are right in this area and here, this whole area. This will get a little dirty up here, and this is usually normal. Just a little bit of dirt and runoff from shooting. So what I'll do initially is take one paper towel and use it as my removal towel, or whatever you want to call it, but it's the dirt towel essentially. So you just take it, run it through, pick up all the stuff that you want out of there, wipe the gun down, and take out what you can dry. And then what I'll do is I'll spray the cleaner. I use M Pro 7 cleaner. Should be no secret to anybody. I'll spray it down. Wherever it hits, I wipe dry. That's just how I do it. Now, oiling it is a little different story. Now, here's how I do it, and I've never had a problem. So what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of oil and put it on the rails. I try to split the edge of the rail, and I'll put it on all four rails. Pretty simple, pretty easy. You don't need a lot on the rear rails because then you'll get all that ooze out of the back of the gun. So if you have any excess, remove it. Now, as far as the internal pieces, if you do oil it, one drop. I wouldn't oil any more than one drop. The other thing I do, which I have down to a science, which is going to be really hard to do through the camera, is I always put one drop on the trigger spring. That wasn't too bad. So I'll put one drop on the trigger spring just to lubricate it, because it is metal on metal contact, and it just makes me feel better. Whether you need to do it or not, it's up to you. I do clean it though, because I don't like it getting all gunked up. And then you're really done with the receiver. You can put some back here. You see there's movement. So sometimes I'll put a drop in this area, but I've already cleaned the gun and I don't want to over lubricate it. You really just want to be careful. Lubricate the gun as much as you need to and not over lubricating unless you're going to store it. Alright, so your slide. This one's still a little dirty. Good for us, right? Again, spray cleaner in it. Wherever you get cleaner, take it out. You'll get, as the gun breaks in, it's going to be a little bit, you'll get a little bit of excess finish where it's been over finished from the factory. So the first couple times, some of the stuff you're going to be removing is going to be very, 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 very black. But especially from this area right here, you'll see some of the wear, but it'll happen. No big deal. Another thing I like to use Q-tips for. This is really hard to get into right here. So if you just take it, shove it in there, it'll make its own little V, drag it to the rear once, and you'll get stuff out of there almost every time. Same thing with this line here. It's stepped in from the slide. I'll take it and drag it down once or twice based on how much carbon's in there. And usually you'll pick stuff up. You want to be careful on this side though, because there's areas to push material into. But this is pretty clean. I haven't shot it recently. So if you see any carbon, it'll usually come up pretty easy in this area. It's just how it works. So a Q-tip's usually enough to pick it up. I try not to use hardly any lubrication in these areas. Back here especially. Maybe a drop of oil every third time I clean it right here. But not a whole lot. You really don't want to get a lot of oil back here. Or in the firing pin channel. Now cleaning this is kind of a pain, and you'll see mine's a little dirty. Again, Q-tip works wonders. So just take your Q-tip, work in there, get whatever you want out of there. You know, as hard as you want to clean it. I'll usually just do a couple passes. If you're going to be scrubbing with a brush, what I do is I put the slide down like this, and I'll scrub with a toothbrush this way, and it'll take anything out that I need it to. But the Q-tip works too. Just get the breech face clean, as clean as you can get it, and then, you know, you'll be all right. Another area to clean here is the extractor, around the extractor. Most of the time it'll push the dirt and mess away, but sometimes just moving it, it'll just kind of like pull the stuff back into that area, and it's a very thin area on the inside. If I start to see it get too dirty, I'll get something and slide it in there, and if it's really, really dirty, I'll knock the pin out and take the extractor out and clean it that way. Now, as far as oiling it goes, what I'll do is I'll take a singular drop of oil and put it right there, because it's a contact point. I'll let it move around and then wipe up any excess after. This is just to protect the high wear area that's right there. It's going to happen with every gun, just because this is the area that has to fight the lockup, so that's how that works. I'll also take a little drop. Usually there's enough oil on the tip of the applicator, but this is brand new. I'll put it around the ring there a little bit, and then either with, I usually have gloves on, but this oil is not bad. So I'll stick my finger in there, roll it around, and go from there. The other thing I do sometimes too is I'll have a oil rag, but I can't find it. I think I threw it out. So what you can do is you can get an oil paper towel. The only problem is with paper towels, they leave a little bit of residue, so just, you know, watch out for that. But you can use them to, paper towels are pretty decent at spreading the oil around. And you'll see it turns green a little bit there. It's pretty good about spreading it evenly and not leaving too much behind and not taking too much off. The barrel. This is probably the only area where people are going to throw flags. I use a bore snake. I don't know why people don't like bore snakes. I've heard the arguments. They work just fine for me. I've never had an issue. They don't mark up the barrel. It may be bad on guns that don't have polygonal rifling, but I do, so don't care. What I'll do with the barrel, usually the areas of the barrel that get really dirty are the feed ramp, the top of the hood here. Again, I've already cleaned it. It was a quick clean job though, it wasn't anything crazy. But, because I plan on shooting it soon. These corners, once it focuses, come on buddy. These corners will get kind of, there we go. Will get kind of dirty around the edges there. That's really a kind of an up to you thing. I mean, that's not too much dirt. It's not going to really mess anything up. Excuse this brass coloring here. It's from my, keep this thing chambered. That'll come up. I just don't want to put a lot of effort into it right now. And you can see the bore is relatively clean. But just for the sake of being thorough. What I'll do is I'll take some cleaner, I'll spray it directly through the bore, and then I'll run the bore snake through it a few times. And what's cool about the bore snake is it'll get everything done, and you're also not really scrubbing with it. I know some people have trouble with scrubbing. I personally don't have any trouble with scrubbing, but usually one pass and it looks fine, just fine. And what I'll do if I'm storing the gun is I'll take a pretty oily patch and run it through there. If I run any kind of cleaner through there, I'll put one patch through with oil on it, and then put a dry patch through to take out the excess. But HK barrels have chromium in them, which is why that bore looks so nice. So it's really, really hard to damage. They're very hard barrels, and they're very resistant to any kind of corrosion. So you really don't have to worry about oiling them too much. It's really up to you. So once you get the barrel clean and the feed ramp clean, and what I'll do for that is I have this M Pro 7 NATO firearms kit, and it comes with a that one's a brass brush and this one's a nylon brush. I'll take the nylon brush and kind of like brush this polished, you know, get it back to looking at least this good, and then I'll take a very, very small dab of oil and put it on there, usually from the oil rag. Now, as far as oiling the barrel, this one's pretty perfect the way it is. It's got a sheen on it. I took a little more off than I intended to on that little pass, but what I'll do is dot, 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 and then just a straight line down the barrel. A lot of people say that's wasteful, but what I do is take the oil rag, spread it out evenly, make sure I get the crown too, and then make sure it's even across the entire barrel. And that way it looks nice. And you'll see the wear marks on the barrel, so you know exactly where, you know, your friction is. So leaving those parts just a touch more oil than the rest of the barrel isn't a bad idea. But it's a very, my hands already have oil on them, but it's a very thin coat and very little comes off on your finger. So that's how I really test it. And what I'll do now is just drop it back into the slide and America. Now, as far as this bad boy goes, I don't like leaving these too wet. Once in a while, if it's looking really dry and really cakey and dirty, I'll clean it. And just to show you how I do that, what I'll do is I'll thin out a paper towel, thin enough to get in between the individual links in the spring. I'll kind of hug it and just twist it through like that until you get to the end, and usually you'll get a little stuff each time. It just happens, and this red stuff's still coming off. I'm sure you saw that on the barrel a second ago there. But, you know, do that, and then if you need to oil it, and if not, just leave it be. This thing's not going to be responsible for depositing copious amounts of grit or filth throughout the weapon system, so this being wet isn't a huge priority, and it being clean, like super duper clean, isn't going to be a huge priority. So long as it can function moving forward and back like it's supposed to and designed to, that's what's important. So putting this back, screw forward, nipple to the rear. There you go. Remember, the nipple facing you. Now I've already put oil on the rails. Occasionally I'll put a drop of oil down each rail. Ooh, these rails are a little dirty. These Q-tips are really good for getting in the rail too. If you don't have one of those cute little rail tools, it's a really thin piece of plastic, lets you get in there. Humans for Targets did a thing on it years ago. works just fine. But put a drop in there. I clean the rails as needed. It's not a huge priority, but drop that in there, let it sit for a second and go down the rails, and then just put her back together. Remember, you have oil on your rails already, so having them in the slide rails isn't huge. Now I gotta get all the red crap off. Now the last thing I do, which is a little controversial, because some people don't think you have to oil the outside of your gun, I'll briefly go over with a very thin light coat of M Pro 7 the slide. So probably too much is going to come out. Yeah. So we'll just dab it a couple times and then be done with it. So that much, that's a little too much. But take the oil rag, distribute it evenly across the slide. And those polish rags from Ruger or Wilson Combat, or those people that put out those polish rags, make this a lot easier. So if you just put a touch of oil on those and just go over the gun with one of those, it will look amazing. Showroom quality. So there's going to be some fuzzies on there and some of that red stuff from getting it off the thing or whatever, but that's what it looks like when it's done. Very nice coat, and it's ready to go. So cleaning these guns, super easy, not too terribly difficult. Keep it simple, thin coats. I coat the slides so they stay looking nice. I'll compare my USP 45 to my tan USP 45 one day. They're only a year apart, but one of them looks like 5 years older. And then once you get it back together, make sure you function check it. You know, just as a test to make sure you didn't screw anything up, or anything you did to the gun changed it so it's not going to function anymore. And then load it back up and put it back on duty. That's what you want to do. Thanks for watching. Take care of each other, stay safe, and support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.